Hi, this is Stephen Frew. I'm talking to my friend Rad about the possibilities in marriage that have long gone undisclosed and undiscovered. We're inventing and looking at a whole new way to imagine marriage in terms of its longevity. Remember the important phase, till death us do part. Marriage was meant to do a lot of things, to provide stability, to provide safety for the raising of children, but safety also for the man and the woman who give up a lot of other options in the world in order to be with each other and work on what I call establishing their own kingdom. So in the scaffolding of a marriage, we look at first the elementary phase, which is kind of that phase when we're just establishing our kingdom and whatever that looks like. Now, I don't want to get too involved with this piece, but I do want to say these four phases are not necessarily time-bound. I like to present them like the first phase is you having children and they're growing up and they become adolescents, and in that thing you see the change from little children to the cusp of becoming young adults. And that mirrors, if we're talking about it this way, that mirrors the adults in the situation becoming midlifers and all that's involved, the changes that are involved there. So I presented that way in the first video we did, but really people who get married in their 40s or 50s or 60s go through the same phases. They're just telescoped. So I want you to not be stopped by the fact that I pictured the first phase as the child rearing stage. It is that, but it can be applied to all other kinds of timelines within people who choose to get married. Now, the first phase is elementary. The second phase is transitional. Pay attention to that word, because in the model I'm showing you, as you move into midlife, a lot of things no longer work. A lot of things, a lot of patterns that you've used to survive and to succeed and to thrive even in the first phase, elementary phase, like budgets or like raising children successfully, safely, and educating them, or like buying a house or retirement funds or whatever it is. Those things, those are patterns. You can see them as patterns. Those patterns are up for grabs in midlife. Things change. Now, men all the time say to me, I'm a coach, I'm a marriage coach. Men say, gee, maybe I just don't love her anymore. We haven't had sex in 6 months. Women say, gee, I'm just, Harry's a good guy and I really love him, but our marriage, we don't have any intimate conversation. Or, he's busy all the time, or he's playing golf. They are saying, something has shifted and we need to get our hands around it and see what the depth and meaning is for that. And that's, of course, very different than what we've been doing in the elementary phase. I call elementary phase. They have to learn to call it elementary phase. In the transitional phase, you can look at it this way. Lots of questions arise about who am I? What am I here for? You read, listen to what's his name? The guy who did Why? Simon Sinek. You listen to his TED Talk, and it's very good about the why. Also, there's a need for and a happening of great curiosity. What would my life be like if I didn't marry Betty, but I went with that high school sweetheart? What would my life be like today if I were single and dating at 45, 50, 55? What would my life be if John or Harry wasn't in my life and I was out there with my women friends on a Friday night having a drink at a singles bar? What would it feel like for me to be free of children and husband and all of this stuff? And how would I live? What would it look like? That's good curiosity. That's good questioning. And that transitional phase is setting you up for the next phase if you stay married and ask all those questions. Not leave, not split, but let those questions come out And let those questions be coached in a way that says we have a lot to look at. You're also saying, without saying it, the old patterns are no longer useful, or they're not very useful. And we're moving into a new manifestation of what? Of our life, of ourself. Also a new manifestation of our love. Now I call that the journey from love's origin, what got you started in the first place, to elementary, establishing your kingdom, to transitional, what's it all about? The old song was What's It All About, Alfie? Some of you are old enough to remember that. To transformational, third phase, transformational. Who am I now and who am I meant to be? What makes my tail wag? What is the way that I want to be in intimate conversation with my honey? How does that change? How is that different? How does our lovemaking look today? If we're just really honest and open with each other, how do I love her? How do I love him? What do I want to talk about? What do I want to explore? What's the next new thing for us? That's all in transformation and much, much more. In order for transformation to really be born, I have to work at, we, the couple, has to work at going back to the origin of love, love's origin, and see where that is now between us. We may have lost track of it. It may have been suppressed. It may have been pushed off and ignored, but it's still there. We're going to talk about that too. Why love's origin is resilient to all the suppression and all the ignoring of it that you've done. And it's still there, and it's still alive, and it's still informing this whole new transformational phase. I know that's a lot. We're going to talk about it a lot. I'm just giving you a summary. Thanks for listening so much. We'll have another video on this very shortly. Thank you. This is Stephen Frew. Thank you for listening.